everybody, and good that you're being here. Nice to see so many friends, experts. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it at the beginning, but I learned that at least my dear colleague here from MiCAR already moved not from the stuff that I want to tell you, so I plan to skip my speech. I give you some time back and just focus on the points that I really want to tell you when it comes to get a licensed player in Europe and especially in Austria. So, as KuCoin, you may have heard of, is a global player, global crypto exchange, offering a lot of products and services within the crypto space, so not only buy and hold or sell crypto, but a lot of different, also complex products, also future products, even a card we have in our program, a debit card. So, what does it mean if such a global player, which has been unregulated all over the world as of now, comes to Europe and faces our nice level playing field of regulation? And in essence, I can already say it's not about MiCAR. MiCAR is only one little part of our business, but it's already enough for a lot of people in the world because it's really hard to understand from people outside of Europe how deep we go with regulation. But regulation, in my point of view, and as some of you know, I used to be a qualified lawyer, so regulation for me is fine. It should give normally everybody some kind of security for the lawyers that we also heard before, and also for the market participants. However, the detail is much more complex most of the times, and it's not only about MiCAR if you want to offer so many different products and services in Europe. So, having said that, if some of you still plan to apply for a MiCAR license or in the midst of the application process, maybe just some food for thought from the praxis, from our experiences that we faced in Austria. KuCoin did a very proper assessment where to settle down and build the headquarters in Europe, and they come to Austria for several reasons, but also especially because our dear regulator is really a very knowledgeable one, and they did a great job already last year by putting together all the important information for everybody who wants to apply for a license to exactly know what is asked for, what they want to see in the application papers, in the application process, and how they're going to handle it. And if you follow this process, you will be receiving a license, and as our dear colleagues from Bybit showed, this is really true. So I can just tell you also from my personal experience that a lot of people outside of Europe, our owners are not only from Bybit and KuCoin and others, they even didn't believe us that they will really receive the license, if they do everything right. And this approach from our FMA, that they said, okay guys, here is a handbook, follow these rules and our guidance, and you will receive the license. And for sure, you also need to have managing directors that are even proper, and MLO and all that stuff, but afterwards you will receive it. So maybe there's already, this is a good thing, but there's already an interesting thing coming with it. And this is about resources. So it's not only about paperwork. Paperwork can be done easily if you have good lawyers. They put everything together. They exactly know what the regulator wants to see. You need to have the team in place that is quite experienced. But then you normally would receive it. But that's only one thing. And I say you need to come up with resources. This also means you spend already a lot of effort and a lot of money before you do your very first trade or serve your very first customer in Europe before you get the license. You need to have an office, you need to have people on the ground working with it, you have the lawyers, you have the third-party providers, and this runs with a lot of costs before you even do the first trade and have the first revenue, and this you need to know if you want to do here. However, what MiCAR does is what it was intended to do is to have a level playing field in crypto for all over Europe. It was the first and is still maybe the best regulatory framework for a huge market like Europe. I mean, we could potentially serve 500 billion users, and this is a huge market, you know. And the CEO of Bybit in Austria, the launch party, said there's enough space for us all, and I believe that, because we are not targeting the 10% that maybe are already in crypto, but the 90% that maybe are not tapped crypto at all as of now. However, then MiCAR and all the other rules and regulations play an important role as a competitive advantage, because how you would gain these users and how you would attract these users, you need to gain trust. And following all these rules and regulations, hopefully, and it should be, gaining trust in the European market. However, there's still some pitfalls that we need to consider. First of all, we will see at the very first January of next year how it really works out. You know? So if the ones that then have the license, and hopefully KuCoin will be one of them, you know, and the other ones that still should stay offshore and or do not have a license, how they're gonna act. Now, if also the regulators, the NCAs, the ESMA will effectively put in place these rules and regulations, and not having a lot of our people, because this is also a huge threat that is from our owners, for example, that a lot of Europeans still be able to trade on them not licensed exchanges all over the world. By us having all the rules and regulations in place, all the people in place, you need to think of, we all will have 50 to 100 people in place working here in Austria, or at least in Europe, and following all these rules and having these costs, and the others just don't, and would still get the customers, so that could not be, or this is not what I guess MiCAR intends. Furthermore, as MiCAR is very special, I won't go into detail. A lot of players like Bybit or Bitbundle and also KuCoin is going to be a crypto broker, not a P2P exchange, which is done globally by all the other competitors. Why is that? Because with MiCAR, it was clear that if you want to be a crypto exchange in Europe, you need to build up a new exchange from scratch, more or less, and have all the liquidity, all the assets in Europe, and this is a huge investment which nobody really wants to do, or maybe it's even impossible, except for the ones that were naturally grown here in Europe, like Bitbundle. And this is why Bybit and we and others decided to go with a crypto broker. But then the interesting thing is, this is a concept that was not known to the global players. So that means that the users are always trading against the broker and not with each other. You know this concept for sure. However, to do that, you're not allowed to only take liquidity from your global provider. Not for KuCoin global, for example. You need to have several different liquidity providers in place. You need to have a matchmaking tool in place so that you can always offer best execution to your customers. And this is already a huge effort that everyone needs to consider and needs to do. For example, a big competitor which got licensed very first in Malta did not realize that topic and got huge scrutinized from ESMA and other NCAs because they did not follow this rule and just mirrored the global order book, which is not allowed at all under MiCAR. Having said that, there are a lot of other, especially also in Austria, other practical topics that we face, you know. First of all, the war for talent is insane. So if here anybody is into compliance, AML, LFC, I don't know what in that region, market surveillance, also a very nice topic. Everyone is looking for great talent in this field. And this is really a topic because the regulator wants to see that you have these people in place. So not only the managing directors and the AMLO, now there's also the deputy AMLO, the head of compliance, the AML officers, the AFC officers. You need to have really in place, and there are not too many on the market, on the European market, that are able to serve such huge crypto brokers like us or Bybit or the others. The next thing is, especially in Austria, it's very hard impossible to get a bank account. However, you need a bank account, otherwise you cannot do your operations and you cannot serve your customers at all. So this is something we are also very much working on a policy-making things. So thanks to the Austria, also the Association, or other associations, we try to, even that A sees this as a threat, that we are not able to have bank accounts in Austria. We get bank accounts all over Europe, that's fine. A lot of money is paid out of Austria, but getting bank accounts in Austria is really hard. The other thing is, by law, we need to have financial auditors. This is very interesting. Maybe I have it here as well. It's very interesting that we are regulated in the same way like banks or investment firms or whatnot. It's the same regulator, the same rules, the same compliance to fulfill. However, it's very hard to find a financial auditor, although we need to have one. So it's all about also building trust with these guys. So, for example, it's impossible to get a Big Four maybe as a new crypto broker for your financial audit, but tier 2, there are 1, 2, 3 that at least are willing to talk to you and giving you an offer. But still, this is also very much about how they trust the management, for example, yeah, and not really about the business itself. Yeah. So I always tell them, guys, this is a huge market. The good thing is because of our regulator and their approach, a lot of international players try to come to Austria, and last Friday it's more than a dozen that are currently looking for a license in Austria. So Vienna could really be a hub. However, the ecosystem also needs to adapt and see this as a huge advantage for them to have a lot of new business. Yeah, then coming back to the MiCAR itself and our products and services. So if we want to have all our products and services in place in Europe as well, we don't only need MiCAR, we also need an investment firm license, MiFID. If you want to issue our cards in Europe, we need an e-money license. So we build different entities that are running for the different licenses. But you know, this is not just like sending a letter for Christmas. It's really hard work to fulfill all these rules and regulations, and MiCAR maybe out of these 3 is still the easiest one, yeah, to fulfill. But any global player who wants to come to Austria needs to know this. Yeah, and then all these operational challenges, some of them I already told you, the best execution topic is only one. We also already learned from other speakers, thanks to Alex, I'm completely with you. I mean, compliance doesn't work if you don't have it in design from the very beginning in your system. Yeah? And also the whole reporting thing. I mean, it's the same. If you only have crypto, this is one thing. But if you have also futures or other topics, you have EMIR, MiFIR, you know what, that is really also not built for crypto currently. You know, this is just in the making also from this point of view. And DAC 8 around the corner is the next big thing. The speciality in Austria is the withholding tax. This is the most complex topic ever seen also in the development point of view. Because in Austria, you're supposed to withhold the taxes from your customers and submit it to the Austrian Ministry of Finance. However, how to do that is super complex. Because on the one hand side, Austria is very friendly for investors, because as long as you stay in crypto, even if you go into e-money tokens, you will not be taxed at all. However, if you cash out at one day, you need to be taxed, and then you need to think of, hey, I bought Bitcoin back in the days, maybe last year or 2 years ago, and then I exchanged it 100 times for other assets, maybe different assets for the one Bitcoin, and then one day you cash out in fiat. And you always need to know the exact price that you were buying Bitcoin back in the days when you cash out. And this is super complex. This is not so complex if you just buy a whole Bitcoin or even crypto, but think of a real trader, you know, who is doing, or have a bot running, who is doing 1,000 trades a minute. You know, how to do that properly at the end of the day, and this makes it very complex, a very special Austrian topic, but a super complex topic. Yeah. Same for market surveillance. Market surveillance was a concept not known to crypto as of today. Very important nowadays. FMA is looking very much into to this topic, you need to have a very proper market surveillance officer in place. However, there are not too many around currently, because this was a topic known to all the investment banks and traditional financial markets, but definitely not to crypto. Whereas, for sure, when it comes to fraud or other detection, insider trading and kind of things, this was always in place already in crypto as well, even if it was not called market surveillance. Yeah, and last but not least, also an interesting topic for a global player at least, to learn that they cannot just say anything about marketing to attract people to trade, but there are rules and regulations that always need to be followed, like also in the MiFID schemes and so on. This is really something that needs to be respected as well, because especially FMA is really monitoring this as well. You know, if you do something wrong on the day before, you get a call in the morning and say, guys, stop it, or we will reject the license. Yeah. At the end of the day, we have done a lot already. I mean, I really see all these regulations also as an advantage if it is done right, and if the economy around this is also that thing, like banks, auditors, and all the kinds that I said. This could really be a huge thing for Europe, and especially also for Vienna. If we really make 10 or 12 global players being in Austria, we could be kind of the new London for crypto, which used to be the financial hub for Europe back in the days. Yeah, and then I can just say, it's a hell of a ride. We work 24/7 to get this done. Sometimes we spend more time in convincing our owners to do it right than talking to the FMA. But I'm 100% sure that reliability and trust is an advantage, and MiCAR and all these regulations will help to get trust. And last but not least, I also want to focus or answer to Romana. Thanks for your presentation as well, because this DLT pilot regime is running next to MiCAR, but I also believe this is the future of finance. And these two worlds, you know, the old traditional financial market and crypto will merge at the end of the day. And what is missing for all these players that you mentioned before is to tap in the global markets and to get all these users, because there are already a lot of interesting partners that want to issue such kind of products, like crowdfunding. All these big guys really want to tokenize their bonds and stocks and whatnot. However, you need to have a market. They have the license now, but they need a market with that. And this is why I believe that it would be a good idea to partner with large exchanges or brokers like us and others, to then really speed up the process. We are talking about tokenizing real world assets since years now, but I guess now we are on the time where it's really taking off, and there are a lot of good times ahead if we don't do it right. So thanks for your attention, and happy for any questions.
Great, thanks a lot, Oliver. Since we are behind schedule, feel free to ask any questions.
Or we do it afterwards with you. Yes, please.
I want to ask one question, which can be stupid by the end of the day. One of the reasons I remember back in the day, and we practiced this 10 years, we said, let's go in crypto because inflation is still really high, and you know all the good things of crypto. But then I was just researching how by the end of the day, one USDT in crypto is one USDT in real life, you know. We have inflation in the real life in USDT, then we have government prints money, USDT, we all know that prints money too, just in code, just in blockchain. Will this ever be changed? Or it will be forever like one USDT equals one USDT? Because if this real money USDT fiat is going down, our crypto USDT is going down too. Like the value of our own USDT in crypto is going down too. Will this ever change? Or it will forever be like this? Because I remember in 2016-17, we traded with Bitcoin. I'm a trader. And then now everything is translated into USDT. It has lost the passion.
Yes. Thank you for the super complex question. Two things to that. No, I mean, first of all, USDT used to be the main means of exchange, especially if you wanted to transfer your assets from one exchange to another globally, or if you want to put it on your cold wallet, and it was just huge. So now, thanks to MiCAR, USDT as a Tether decided to not go with the MiCAR compliant white paper and did not want to follow all the rules for EMTs in Europe, and more or less exited the European market, being delisted by most of the compliant exchanges. And it used to be also the trading, the second leg of the trade of nearly every trading pair on all exchanges. This is changing now. We have now Liquidity, even get some European players like the German or Unity guys, and maybe to elaborate on this as well, maybe even the European Union changes their mind and will issue a Euro CBDC with the EPC one day. I don't believe that it will change, at least not in a short time, so that you have the backing of one-to-one to or pledged one-to-one to currency. However, we also have these arcs and other topics, you know, where we that also could serve as a means of stable value, but for exchanging and having some kind, because it's, for example, also very important for the adoption of then the tokenized assets and stocks. You need something to trade with on-chain. On-chain, yes. So the other important thing, or maybe interesting thing, is the other colleague had the speech before. When it comes to payments, you know, I believe that the whole payments is going to change in the future, and we will see most of the payments being done also on-chain. So, however this is called, then at the end of the day, many at KuCoin, but even at Bitcoin nowadays and other players, so that I don't want to talk about KuCoin, but we establish services like KuPay, which means that the merchant and the merchant has a wallet with us, and you could pay as a customer directly with your crypto. So there's no need of USDT anymore. You can pay in Bitcoin, you can pay in whatever means of payment you want as in crypto, without going cash out and pay and get back. Now, this is
I have another question. To exchanges like Bitcoin, which is a massive exchange, do you ever have meetings with businesses, for example, in real estate, and just tell them like maybe it's good to start selling houses with crypto or pay rent? Because one of the main questions that my students, I'm also a crypto mentor, my students ask me is like, can I pay my rent? Will I get my salary in crypto? We always have to say this good course, yes, in the future, even buying Kosovo, I'm from Kosovo, you can buy car with crypto, it's totally legal. You can even buy gas. We have moved a little bit forward to this, but you just have to know that I'm a mentor and I meet them. So I am the first one who talks to the new users. These are their questions, like, can I pay my rent? Will I get my salary? Are you doing as an exchange anything in that direction?
Absolutely. This is also something that we do with KuPay. This could be, how can I say, extended in every direction, so to say. You know, as soon as, for example, the landlord accepts crypto as a wallet with us, for example, and everyone could be allowed to pay in crypto. I mean, as a lawyer back in the days, you could also pay me in crypto because I allowed it. This is more a question of private law, you know, and a very, how can I say, the very jurisdiction. I mean, in Dubai, you for sure know that the VARA just currently changed and amended the law so that you really could even buy land on crypto, so they put their land register on blockchain, and you can directly also get ownership of this flat or this land by paying in crypto, and you get a so to say kind of NFT that you are the owner of this flat or this land. I would say that Europe is lagging behind here, unfortunately. I mean, Austria is invented the land register 200 years ago, but unfortunately we do not go further here. But I believe there are three things that need to happen. You know, we need to amend the private laws as well. to make this possible, we need to amend like the land register, for example, and bring it on blockchain, and the personal identity needs to be on the blockchain so that you can transfer ownership on anything, even on land, on-chain without interfering any other parties like notaries or banks or whatnot. We are at the very beginning, in one slide I saw we are at the very beginning. I also believe that it's still very early days. We are at the end of the 90s when it comes to the internet, still with crypto, but it's moving very fast, and especially also now with AI coming and all these things. I believe this is also going to get very accelerated because, for example, when it comes to having your identity on crypto, is getting more and more important, I believe, because if you see the new phishing attacks and all that stuff, where even people that you know talk to you in a video call, but they are just AI generated, this is really getting insane, and this is why I believe that blockchain could also be a solution for that, but there needs to happen still a lot. Let's see. Yeah.
Thanks, Oliver.